It's not even been 24 hours since we had this horrific killing at the elementary school in Texas. And before any bodies have been buried while parents are still mourning, you got the left just trying to capitalize on this horrific, this evil event. And what's crazy about the whole thing is the way it hit the nation. This isn't like other school shootings, which are horrific in and of themselves. I mean, they're all evil, but this one, because of the age of the children that were killed, because of just how it all went down, it's just struck the nation really crazy. And last night, we waited for President Biden to come out and really try to unite the country, to really try to comfort the country. I know, people are like, sit on now, come on, you know you're not gonna do that, but we were looking for that, and he had a nice start, and then it went south. We'll talk about that in a little bit. But what I want to talk about is something that happened just a few hours ago when Beto O'Rourke, Robert Francis, this is the guy who was running for presidency back in 2016 when President Trump absolutely cleaned his clock. Now he's supposed to be trying to run for governor of Texas. Well, he did something that was absolutely despicable today. In the middle of a press conference, a somber event where you had Governor Abbott and other officials explaining what went down, trying to answer questions from the family. Here comes Beto O'Rourke, and he actually bogarted the press conference. Check it out.
Sit down and don't play this stuff. Shooting is right now, and you are doing nothing. No, you're offering us nothing. You said this is not predictable. This is totally predictable with you.
Sir, you're out of line. Sir, you are out of line. Sir, you are out of line. Please leave this auditorium. I can't believe you're a sick son of a bitch. You come to a deal like this to make a political issue.
Beto O'Rourke trying to bogart the whole event, trying to take over the press conference. It's what the left does. He doesn't understand, or maybe he doesn't want to understand the gravity in the room. He doesn't want to try to understand what happened. He wants to take over the event. He wants to use it as a political weapon to accuse the governor of not doing enough when it comes to gun control. It's a sick play. And it's how some people handled this tragedy. They want to use it as political fodder. They want to use it. What did Rahm Emanuel say? Never let a good crisis go to waste. I hope that move right there destroys what is left of Beto O'Rourke's, ambitions to be a representative, to represent the good people of Texas. But he wasn't the only one. Now, let me rephrase that, because there was one genuine reaction that I thought was on point. Even though Steve Kerr, coach of the Golden State Warriors, is a hardcore lefty, his father was assassinated. His father was shot. His father was a diplomat. And so this had to strike deep. And hours before they were to play the Dallas Mavericks, you had Steve Kerr call a press conference, and he let it go. He let his emotions go, and you could tell that it was real. You could tell that it was authentic. I only have one slight criticism on all of this. Check it out.
Happened with our team in the last 6 hours. We're going to start the same way tonight. Any basketball questions don't matter. Since we left shoot around, 14 children were killed 400 miles from here, and a teacher. And in the last 10 days, we've had elderly Black people killed in a supermarket in Buffalo. We've had Asian churchgoers killed in Southern California. And now we have children murdered at school. When are we going to do something? I'm tired. I'm so tired of getting up here and offering condolences to the devastated families that are out there. I'm so tired of I'm tired of the moments of silence. Enough. There's 50 senators right now who refuse to vote on H.R. 8, which is a background check rule that the House passed a couple of years ago. It's been sitting there for 2 years. And there's a reason they won't vote on it, to hold on to power. So I ask you, Mitch McConnell, I ask all of you senators who refuse to do anything about the violence and school shootings and supermarket shootings, I ask you, are you going to put your own desire for power ahead of the lives of our children and our elderly and our churchgoers? Because that's what it looks like. It's what we do every week. So I'm fed up. I've had enough. We're going to play the game tonight, but I want every person here, every person listening to this to think about your own child or grandchild or mother or father or sister, brother. How would you feel if this happened to you today? We can't get numb to this. We can't sit here and just read about it and go, well, let's have a moment of silence. Yeah, go Dubs, you know. Come on, Mavs, let's go. That's what we're going to do. We're going to go play a basketball game. And 50 senators in Washington are going to hold us hostage. Do you realize that 90% of Americans, regardless of political party, want background check, universal background check? 90% of us, we are being held hostage by 50 senators in Washington who refuse to even put it to a vote, despite what we, the American people, want. They won't vote on it because they want to hold on to their own power. It's pathetic. I've had enough.
See, the problem with Mr. Kerr there. You see, the problem with Mr. Kerr there is that I understand. I can feel the emotion. You can see it in his eyes. You can hear it in his voice, and yes, the frustration there. But he says, "I'm tired of offering up tears, prayers, and thoughts and prayers." It's not your place to do that. It's not. When you put it in that context, it's like you're speaking as some type of authority. You do have a platform as an NBA coach, and you're just as frustrated as everybody else. But the way you started it off, you made it political. You talked about black people being shot in the grocery store. You talked about Asian people being shot. You talked about, why can't they just be Americans? Why can't they just be shootings? In your frustration, you ended up playing identity politics. In your frustrations, you started playing, the left card, seeing the color of people who were killed, and then assuming that they were killed by white folks. Then you start talking about, the politics of it. Mitch McConnell. How come you didn't mention Chuck Schumer? And Mitch McConnell doesn't have any power in the Senate right now. He's a Senate minority. How come you didn't mention, Joe Biden? The Democrats, they control the House, the Senate, and the executive branch. Why are you singling out Republicans? But it really gets down to the issue of this. Steve Kerr and others like him are looking for the government to solve this problem. They're looking for laws and legislation to address this issue. These issues are beyond that now. I do believe we're talking about a unique evil that's been unleashed on our society. Some people may say it's mental illness. You had a reporter that threw that at Governor Abbott today. Governor Abbott shot back at him. This guy has shot his grandma in the face and then went and killed 19 kids. If that's not evil, then what is? Steve Kerr didn't talk about that. Beto O'Rourke, they're not talking about that. But you know what? Last night, you had the president of the United States, Joe Biden. He almost got there. The first 2 minutes and 20 seconds of his speech were spot on. He was presidential. He was calling for healing. He was calling the nation together. I watched it. I was hoping that this would take place, and it actually did for a little over 2 minutes. Check it out.
Good evening, fellow Americans. I had hoped when I became president I would not have to do this again. Another massacre, Uvalde, Texas. An elementary school. Beautiful, innocent, second, third, fourth graders. And how many scores of little children who witness what happened, see their friends die, as if they're on a battlefield, for God's sake. They'll live it the rest of their lives. There's a lot we don't know yet. There's a lot we do know. The parents who will never see their child again, never have them jump in bed and cuddle with them. Parents who will never be the same. To lose a child is like having a piece of your soul ripped away. There's a hollowness in your chest. You feel like you're being sucked into it and never going to be able to get out.
Now, Joe Biden can speak to this because he lost 2 children. He lost his daughter early on in a car accident. Of course, he lost his son, Bo. Usually he politicizes that, the loss of his son, Bo. But here, last night, during the address to the nation, I thought he did a fantastic job of really connecting emotionally with those parents in Texas who lost their children.
Suffocating. It's never quite the same. It's the feeling shared by the siblings and the grandparents and the family members and the community that's left behind. Scripture says, Joe and I have talked about this in different contexts, in other contexts. The Lord is near to the brokenhearted and saves the crushed in spirit. So many crushed spirits.
Perfect. He used the Psalms. He went to the Psalms and offered up a scripture that connected with the hurting, connecting with the healing. This is outstanding. I'm no fan of President Biden, as you know, but this is one of those moments that he really is striking a chord with the American people, I think.
So tonight, I ask the nation to pray for them. Give the parents and siblings the strength in the darkness they feel right now. As a nation, we have to ask, when in God's name
Ooh.
are we going to stand up to the gun lobby?
Oh, what happened? What happened? We went from being compassionate. We went from quoting scripture. We went from connecting, creating a bond with that family, those families in Texas that lost their children. And then he pivots. And then he goes political. And then he goes on the attack. Then he starts to even misuse the name of God.
When in God's name we do what we all know in our gut needs to be done. It's been 3,448 days, 10 years since I stood up at a high school in Connecticut, a grade school in Connecticut, where another gunman massacred 26 people, including 20 first graders at Sandy Hook Elementary School. Since then, there have been over 900 incidents of gunfires reported on school grounds.
Here, the president is now going to go through a list of all the people who have been killed on school grounds, and that is tragic and it's horrible and it's something that we need to figure out. But I just want to tell you, over the last 20 years since 1999, since Columbine, every single one of these school massacres have happened in government-run schools. Private schools don't get this. Religious schools don't get this. And I throw that out there because it was a statistic that I just learned today, which goes to more questions that need to be asked. Why is this happening in government-run schools? He's going to give us the list. And of course, this is headed towards more gun control. But still, we've now just gotten to the politics. Now all we're doing is spouting tired talking points that he's been using for the last 20, 30 years.
Stoneman Douglas High School in Parkland, Florida. Santa Fe High School in Texas. Oxford High School in Michigan. The list goes on, and the list grows when it includes mass shootings at places like movie theaters, houses of worship, as we saw just 10 days ago at a grocery store in Buffalo, New York. I am sick and tired of it. We have to act.
Do what?
And don't tell me we can't have an impact on this carnage.
We can.
I spent my career as a senator and a vice president working to pass common sense gun laws. We can and won't prevent every tragedy, but we know they work and have positive impact. When we passed the assault weapons ban, mass shootings went down. When the law expired, mass shootings tripled. The idea that an 18-year-old kid can walk into a gun store and buy 2 assault weapons is just wrong. What in God's name do you need an assault weapon for except to kill someone?
Okay, I'm not going to get into the nuts and bolts of assault weapons and the mischaracterization of assault weapons. It's been done. I want to talk about how callous the president is here. He went from just giving us a beautiful first 2 minutes, talking about spirituality, talking about the Bible, talking about, losing children and coming together, praying for the nation. And now he's like, what in God's name? What in God's name do you need an assault weapon for? Why are you going to go hunting? Whoa. Whoever wrote the first 2 minutes of his speech, brilliant. They should have shut it down right there, because now all the president is doing is creating more damage.
Deer aren't running through the forest with Kevlar vests on, for God's sake. It's just sick. And the gun manufacturers have spent 2 decades aggressively marketing assault weapons, which make them the most and largest profit. For God's sake, we have to have the courage to stand up to the industry.
For God's sake, we have to have the courage to stand up to the gun industry, because in Biden's mind and in the left's mind, it's the gun industries that are causing all these problems. It's the same thing with inflation and everything else. He's blaming everybody else except for really asking the real questions that are going to get to the heart of the problem that is plaguing this nation.
Here's what else I know. Most Americans support common sense laws, common sense gun laws. I just got off a trip from Asia, meeting with Asian leaders. And I learned of this while I was on the aircraft. And what struck me on that 17-hour flight, was these kinds of mass shootings rarely happen anywhere else in the world.
Is that true?
Why? They have mental health problems. They have domestic disputes in other countries. They have people who are lost. But these kinds of mass shootings never happen with the kind of frequency they happen in America. Why?
In Kenya, in 2015, gunmen killed 148 people. In Pakistan, in 2014, gunmen killed 141 people, mostly children. In Paris, in 2015, men with guns bombed, killed 130 people. In Oslo, in 2011, a gunman killed 77 children. In Kenya, again, in 2013, gunmen killed 67 people. In South Korea, in 1982, a gunman killed 56 people. In New Zealand, in 2019, a gunman killed 51 people. In Tunisia, in 2015, a gunman killed 38 people. In Australia, in 1996, a gunman killed 35 people. In Scotland, in 1994, a gunman killed 17 people, 16 of whom were students. In China, in 1994, a gunman killed 28 people. We're not even talking about the truck bombs, the knifings, the poison gas murders. What is Biden talking about when he says this doesn't happen in other countries? Why is, once again, Biden putting America under the bus? Why is he using this tragic incident to berate Americans on gun violence, on murder that happens all over the world?
Why are we willing to live with this carnage? Why do we keep letting this happen? Where in God's name is our backbone to have the courage to deal with it and stand up to the lobbies? It's time to turn this pain into action.
See, where is our backbone to stand up to these lobbyists? Where is your backbone to get to the heart of what's going on? Where is your backbone to ask what's happening with the breakdown of the family? Where is your backbone when we talk about why God's been removed from school and we can't talk about it? We can have storybook, drag queen story time in the schools. But then when the rubber meets the road, I don't see drag queens and administrators trying to run to save our children. This is all convoluted. But what I really, really am just disgusted by with last night's address to the nation about this horrific, horrific tragedy is how the left in general and how Biden specifically is politicizing it and going after his political enemies.
For every parent, for every citizen in this country, we have to make it clear to every elected official in this country, it's time to act. It's time for those who obstruct or delay or block the common sense gun laws. We need to let you know that we will not forget. We can do so much more. We have to do more. Our prayer tonight is for those parents lying in bed and trying to figure out, will I be able to sleep again? What do I say to my other children? What happens tomorrow? May God bless the loss of innocent life on this sad day. And may the Lord be near the brokenhearted and save those crushed in spirit, because they're going to need a lot of help, a lot of our prayers. God love you.
Wow. I mean, maybe this is what happened. Maybe the first 2 minutes were like on point, were part of the script, and maybe that middle part was completely off script, and maybe he ended again with the script. That's how disjointed it was. That's how just off key it was. And once again, we don't have a commander-in-chief that cares about the people. We have a commander-in-chief that, well, okay, I'll do the first part of your speech, but I'm going to get my enemies right in the middle of it. In the heart of the speech, I'm going after the gun lobbies. In the heart of the speech, I'm going after politicians that won't sign on to common sense gun laws. In the heart of the speech, I'm going to be the old, just hateful, mean Joe Biden that I've been for most of my career. Damn the American people. Damn the folks who are experiencing this tragedy. I'm going to use this tragedy in the same way that Beto O'Rourke used that press conference. Sort of in the same way Steve Kerr used his platform to politicize it. And that's the problem. When the left wants to get serious about what's going on with gun violence and violence in general in this country, I'm right here. And you got a lot of conservatives that are right here to get ready to have that conversation. But until then, they're not ready. They're still playing games. They're playing politics. They're politicizing tragedy. My name is James T. Harris. This is my YouTube channel. I want you to go ahead and subscribe to this channel. Tell your friends about it. Tell your family about it. Here we go.